Hello and welcome to Automation Talk, where you have the opportunity to see and hear live what's happening here at Automation Direct. If this is your first time joining us, we thank you for logging in and hope you'll enjoy today's Automation Talk show. My name is Shane Kreider and I'll be your host for today. All right, so we're going to jump right in, and as you know, you signed up, but today is we're going to talk about industrial components, and joining me to help put this on is always my sidekick, Tom Olowski.
Glad to be here.
And Tom and I tried to figure out the best way to talk about these particular products, and we just said, you know, industrial components, what's going to fit in there. There might be some products that, yeah, we're iffy, and there might be some that we left out, but don't worry. We have more web seminars. We have them laid out until the end of first quarter of 2010.
Yes.
So
yes.
we'll be doing some more. We'll be doing some motion, some power
Get
line
into
filters.
A little bit with power transformers, a little bit on noise suppression, some of that kind of stuff. So not too technical, but cover the products.
Yeah, but just keep your eyes open for those. So like I said, this is industrial components that we figured this would be a good fit for today's show.
Yeah, this was a tough one in a sense, and it's not so much a fallout of things we haven't covered, but you know, we were looking at industrial components from the standpoint of enclosures, and as you see on the slide, the agenda, we're going to cover push buttons, and that's going to encompass little on foot switches. I'm looking over the table here and everything, but especially push buttons, enclosures, disconnects, a little bit on the wire duct, which we've covered in the past, and,
right.
and then we'll catch you up a little bit on DIN rail real quick.
Yeah, we have what, 6,500, over 6,500 part numbers now?
7,000.
7,000.
Yes.
Okay, it changes all the time. Now, is it 7? Almost 8,000. Jeez, almost 8,000 part numbers. So yeah, we're trying to break these into little groups so we can educate our customers on the products, where to find more information, how you can contact us for more information, or we typically get a customer response of I've been a customer for 8 years and I didn't know you sold that.
That happens quite a bit. Yes.
You know how big our catalog is, and our website, the web guys do a really good job of laying it out. But yeah, sometimes unless you're just searching for something you don't realize. But yeah, keep your eyes open, sign up for the other seminars, and learn what else we've got. But we'll go ahead and roll through.
Start out with enclosures. We kind of broke this part down into 4 parts, and basically we recently, I think in the past year, maybe it's been 2 years, we added a line of disconnect enclosures, and then along with that we have other metallic and non-metallic enclosures we're going to cover. And even though we covered this in a previous webinar, we're going to talk about our panel interface connectors.
Yeah, nice accessories.
Go hand in hand with the enclosures. So to start with, we'll talk about disconnect. I'll talk about that a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, yeah, your little spill on Hubbell.
Yeah, the first line there is Hubbell-Wegmann. All of our panels here are made by Hubbell-Wegmann, which they're a U.S. manufacturer, and these are made in the U.S.
Someplace up north.
Up north. And we've had a really good relationship with Hubbell-Wegmann for years now. There's only a handful of panel manufacturers in the world, but there's just a few of them in the U.S. But we started out with a good relationship. I think we started out with some standard metallic ones and maybe some stainless steels. And then we've expanded over the years what customers have been requesting, and we're into the non-metallic, like you said. The slide previous there, we've got the operator stands and stuff like that, pedestals and whatnot.
So stations.
Right, some really good stuff. But Hubbell, they do a really good job on manufacturing their enclosures. They're really proud of their gasketing processes and the machines that they use for the gasketing processes, and they're top notch. One of the things that is sort of a little untypical of Automation Direct in our products is usually everything's stored right here in Cumming, Georgia, at our warehouse. But there are some of the enclosures, and if you go to the website, it'll tell you, these are stored, off-site. And what it is to save us money and pass that on to our customers, is versus transporting some of these large enclosures. I mean, some of these things can get huge, the size of a vehicle. But yeah, Tom will show you in a second on the website. Anyway, instead of transporting these from the manufacturer's warehouse down to our warehouse, it's easier for us just to basically rent space from them at their warehouse. And what they have to do is they actually have to keep stock for us. They can't sell it to anybody else. They can't use it for themselves, but they have to have a number of stock just for Automation Direct. And when you order it, it gets shipped directly from the manufacturer. And Tom can show you real quick on the website if we can get the guys to click over there.
Real quick here, what I'm showing you is this is just the basic NEMA 12 type enclosures. These are wall mount, but basically we're going to show you the lead time. This might not be a real good example. This is showing a 5-day lead time on that enclosure. Let me jump over here. Freestanding, I'm quite sure is going to be out there a little bit longer as far as lead times. There we're looking at 15 days. Let's jump into what's a good one. Probably some of the smaller.
And not all of them are stored. We do store some here in-house. Some of the smaller ones we do store in-house. The reason why they have the lead times is, of course, you know, boxing them up, shipping them out, and a lot of these, you know, ground-only freight. So you can't just throw it in the back of a UPS truck like we do with everything else. But that's just a good example of what we've got. Find anything else there, Tom?
Let's pull up some of the. Oops. There we go. Some of the just kind of the plain Jane junction boxes. Again, we're going to show some lead times in here. I'll get to them here.
But there's some, as you see, you scroll. Yeah, there's a few of them that we do have in house. So.
There's the smaller stuff especially. Sure. We're going to have that readily available and everything. So let's continue with the disconnect enclosures. Yep. And basically, in my experience, being an electrical designer, a lot of times, you know, after you've designed a control enclosure and you've selected and laid out your panel layout and your size and everything, you're going to have some kind of circuit breaker or disconnect or fuse disconnect to kill power to that panel. And most of the time, we're going to talk about these a little bit more, but
that's what it
Shane's
is, right?
going to hold it. Yep, that's a fused disconnect switch. Nothing wrong with it. You know, it serves its purpose. It's a good thing. But back in my heyday, that was probably the only way we had to go, was with a through-the-door mechanism.
Right.
Again, nothing wrong with that. A lot of times you had to spend, you know, special detail to making sure everything was mounted properly,
and
lined up. You know, so the idea was you laid out your panel, you mounted everything, you wired it, then you took the panel, set it inside the enclosure, and you actually put the shaft into the operating mechanism, and we literally would take the door and slam it shut, so we'd get a, if you look at these operator handles, they have a little sharp point on it, so we'd get an indentation in the door that allow us to put a template on there and drill our holes.
So again, yes, they do. They have a nice little indentation, sharp indentation.
Nothing wrong with it. They do a good job and everything. Where you run into some problems when you start getting real deep panels. Now you have this shaft sticking out and it droops, and over a period of time the mechanism wears and things don't line up exactly the way you want them to and everything. And I've even seen panels where they've actually created a brace that would, you know, hold the shaft up and everything. So talked enough about this. Now let's jump to the flange mounted operators. Now we don't, at this time, we don't carry any flange disconnects, but we do have the enclosures. They're fairly universal, and as you see on the slide, there's quite a few manufacturers out there that actually have the hardware, the operating mechanism. Some of them have all the operating operator for either a circuit breaker or a disconnect that you would mount on your panel with the mechanism that would go to the operator handle. All your interlock, the ability, and we'll talk about this a little more, to safely lock out that panel or the breaker is all built into it. But as you can see, there's several manufacturers that actually sell the disconnects that would go with our panels.
Okay, cool.
And also on that slide, I know we jumped to the metallic enclosures, but we'll save this to the last. But under the enclosures, we'll take a look at some of the available accessories for the whole line.
Yeah.
So next, we get into the metallic enclosures.
Yep, like you see it on the slide, we've got the NEMA 1, 12, 412, 404X, just depending on your application. If it's going to be indoors, outdoors, you know, what it's going to be exposed to, you know, salt water, any hazardous chemicals or whatnot. Full line of these. Like I said, this was pretty much the first, you know, one of the first line that we brought in. Now we've definitely expanded off of that line, but it was the first sell of products that we brought in.
We have the push button stations. I think there's an example here
Yeah, we've got one on the table here with some push
we
buttons
should
in it.
say, unfortunately, we always try to bring the products up here so where we can hold them in our hands and show them during the webinar and everything. Like here, we'll talk about this limit switch, but unfortunately, some of the enclosures and stuff
rather large, heavy, and
fairly large. So
I'm not sure I wanted to move one in for 40 minutes and move it out, but yeah. Yeah, so we do have these, but we'll move on, and now we've got the non-metallic, and Tom's got one here in his hand, and we were able to snag one of these out of our demo case. But yeah, I know customers, when we first started selling the metallic ones, I worked in tech support, and that was one of the biggest requests was for accessories, disconnects, and the next thing was for non-metallic enclosures. So we do have the full line of non-metallic enclosures.
Yeah, this one I'm holding happens to have the clear front on it.
Don't open that,
It's
Tom.
gasket, yeah. Plastic. Plastic sometimes has a little bit of a residue smell to it, but we also offer these with the screw-down fronts, hinged fronts, but solid fronts and everything. And there's accessories like panels and some other accessories that go along with the non-metallic enclosures. And we also have push-button stations in the non-metallic. And also, we keep talking the NEMA ratings. We also should mention the IP type ratings.
Right.
And later on in the presentation, we give some links and everything that get you into
differences of the NEMA ratings
NEMA
and maybe even NEMA versus IP.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you can see there, we have hundreds of sizes in the non-metallic.
Yep.
Okay, panel interface connectors. Now, this is something, like Tom said, we have covered in the past. Actually, we might have even covered them in two of our previous shows, but it's an accessory to the enclosures. And let me see if I can grab one real quick.
And this is one of those things, I wish I would have had privy to back when, or I wish they were available. And all these panel interface connectors, they're available in a multitude of configurations and styles, but we're going to cover Ethernet. You can have remote Ethernet connections to them. You can have remote RS-232 in the form of DB9 type connectors. We also do the RJ12, which is the common programming terminal port, communications port on our PLCs. And we also do USB, which is relatively new. And at the time we came out the connectors, it was like, well, about the only thing you're going to have USB for is if you stuck a PC or something inside your control enclosure. And if we flip and look behind Shane's shoulder here.
Our new Productivity 3000 actually has USB programming on it. So, yeah, you can plug into the USB on it, plug into one of these. And what's the nice benefit of these, Tom? Why would I want to use one?
Prevents me from having to open the enclosure door. I can walk up with a laptop, plug into it. We also need to mention they're available with the AC outlets on them in either a single form or double, and also ground fault or GFI.
Like this one's actually got a power outlet and the RG12, so we could go to any of our direct logic PLCs. Like Tom says, walk directly up to the cabinet, open this little door, plug up to the communications, plug up my laptop, and I can start programming without ever having to interrupt power to the enclosure or opening the enclosure and worry about getting dust or anything.
And also, if you want to point out the ease of wiring.
Yes, these are awesome. They even take the time and put the little spade connectors on the back. That way you have two brand new spade connectors, pull them off, grip them on your wires, you're ready to go. You don't have to go find spade connectors. So when you get one of these, ground cable's already got a nice ring terminal on it. Yeah, they're great, and plug in on the communication, so it's just plug and play, pretty much ready to go. All right, and like I said, we've got some pictures there of all the lineup of those. But
on the slide there, you'll see the we call them panel interface connectors, but they go by a lot of other terminology too. If you need to be looking up one or whatever, but yeah,
if they'll just come up with some firewire
for the video stuff. Yep.
All right, the disconnects. Tom and I are going to try to show a little bit on the disconnects, like he mentioned a little bit. Now, he's got one in his hand that is a non-fusible disconnect. This is basically a mechanical disconnect. And what I've got here is basically the rod and the handle. And we've got a couple of different handles there on the table. But basically this rod and this handle will fit into that. Like you were saying, that's going to mount on your back panel. This is going to mount on the door, go through the door. To your enclosure. Now I've got one in my hand that is a fusible model. It's it's rather large here, so it takes the big, would you say bolt on?
Bolt-in type fusing,
Right.
if I remember correctly.
So this one actually handles some very large voltage and current ratings. But with different handles types, there's a whole lineup of these. And basically, if you're not familiar with them, you know, I think anytime you've messed with any panels, a lot of code requires you to put these on there. So when you do open the panel door, that you're going to kill power. But also for things like, you know, lockout, tagout, they've got a nice little accessory or nice little button here on the handle that once you depress it, you can put your lockout, tagout device in here.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty unique. Earlier we were looking at that, but
you were messing around with it. You can't disconnect it, so you can't open the door. You can't turn power back on, so it's going to keep you from doing anything.
Great safety feature.
Yes,
and it's part of code in a lot of different applications and places and everything. So, yes, please check out our disconnects online.
Yeah, customers asked for them, so now you've got them. All right, push button overview. There's quite a few here. We're going to go through the overview, then we'll break them down into individuals. But 22 millimeter metal, non-metal. Then we got Cutler hammer lines, and then we've got some foot switches, which is probably some of the newest stuff. Now we do have some new line extensions on our push buttons, but we'll get into the 22 millimeter metal ones. I don't have any over here. I know
I have them all.
Yeah, you can take the lid off of yours, but. We've carried push buttons, the 22 millimeter ones, as long as I've been here. 10 years ago, you know, they probably brought them in 10 or 11 years ago, and they were a big hit because we were selling them at the time. They were $4 or $5, I think. Yeah. They were dirt cheap. We've now extended that line, and we have non-metallic ones, which basically everything's the same. Basically uses the same terminal block on the back, but the housing itself is non-metallic, and you know the main reason was cost. We can save a lot of money, and they're just as rugged nowadays with technology. You can make non-metallic materials, you know.
Yeah, and you know, they lend themselves to some corrosion resistance. And,
right. What's cool about all of these is, let me grab a few of them here on the counter, is you've got a couple different terminal blocks. You've got a red and a green, depending on if you want normally open, normally closed. And as you can see, I've got one here in my hand that has multiple terminal blocks. It's got 4 alternating, normally open, normally closed. You can stack 3 deep, so you can do 6 terminal blocks on a push button or switch. And then you can buy, you know, these as accessories. So if you need more, you can buy more if you need to replace them. And then we got joysticks here, which is like a 4-way joystick. They actually have a white terminal block. Now that's the only ones that these white ones, right? It's for basically side, but that's the only ones that these white ones work with is the 4-way joysticks. But I used to get a lot of calls, and customers were asking, you know, these switches look just like my other brand ones. Will the terminal blocks work, or will this work? Will that work? I'm like, you know, I never messed with your brand. You know, try it and see. We have 30-day money back on everything. So customers would call up, they'd order some of these terminal blocks, and they said, hey, they actually fit with the brand that I'm using. Are you sure they're not the same? And I'm like, these are our switches, but if they fit, you know, have at it. And they were telling me, well, your connectors here, your terminal blocks, are a third of what everybody else is selling them. So I think we were actually selling, we could probably pull numbers, but we're actually selling more terminal blocks than we were
switches or operators. Themselves. Yes, very definitely. Yeah, I guess what shocked me was even when I started with Automation Direct, you know, I was used to designing panels and equipment and everything where, you know, I was paying, you know, $50 for a selector switch or something, almost as much as I was for an I/O module. Right. I was using a PLC, and walk in here and see us, you know, selling at that time, you know, a quality switch for $5. Right. You know, that was amazing to me. We also have all the indicators. I think it's unique that we offer, you know, the push buttons in literally four different, I don't want to call them styles, but flavors. But we have, you know, 3 in the 22 millimeter size, and then the standard, the old JIC 30 millimeter size, and so the 22 and the 30 we offer in the Eatons, and then the other ones are our own brands that we offer and everything. But we also offer the indicators, key switches, what do we call these? Audible alarms, flashers, and the whole shot and everything. So it's
the indicators in most of the lines. We offer the incandescent and LEDs. Now let me push you to say Get the
LEDs?
LEDs. If it's $1 more, buy the LED. If it's $10 more, buy the LED. Save yourself the hassle, because anytime you're going to use anything in an industrial environment, there's going to be vibration and whatnot. And you know what an incandescent light's going to do. It's going to give out after a while, vibration, heat, temp. The LEDs are definitely the way to go. I know one of my hobbies is boats, and anytime I have to replace a light, I'm always just spend the extra money, put the LED in, and you never have to worry about it. All right, so let's move on to the 22 millimeter plastic. Like I said, sort of mentioned this, they're basically the same as the metal ones. Take the same contact blocks. They're just, we were able to offer these a lot less money. So, you know, and they're just as rugged. They're just as rugged. But it's pretty much almost the same lineup as what we have in the metal ones there as well.
And then we jump to the 22 millimeter cutler hammer.
hammers.
They're a little bit different and unique from the standpoint that the contact blocks, actually you place them on, and then there's a little lever that snaps them and holds them into place and everything.
Right. They just
I should point out the contact blocks between
ours and the cutler hammers are not interchangeable.
They're not interchangeable, but they're different applications and different purposes where you might use them.
Right.
And then
we got the 30 millimeter. Now we've got a nice panel down here on the table. I'm not going to pick it up, but it's got a lot of the cutler hammer. The HT line, which when they launched these, it was to basically squash one of the competitors' lines, and I believe they called it Hammer Time.
Hammer Time.
But when they launched these particular line of these 30 millimeter ones, there was one competitor that had a good market share and sold a lot of them, and cutler hammers, we need to see what we can do about that. So they came up with a really industrial, rugged, inexpensive 30 millimeter and launched those, and they were a lot less than what any of the competitors had. Now cutler hammer, we were able to get some good prices, and you'll find out that if you work with some PLC or automation distributors, you can buy it from us cheaper than what some of the distributors are getting them for. But
yeah, typically we're at half the price.
Yeah, of what industry standards, right?
Yeah.
So, but take a look at those. There's some really good industrial switches there.
Application-wise, the 22 millimeter operators or push buttons that we're offering, they're going to cover most types of applications. You get into the little bit heavier duty, then I would strongly recommend the 30 millimeter. They're going to take up to more of abuse or in operations where you're
something that's taking a lot. What I like about these, especially like the finger safe type ones, is if you're in an amusement park, usually the control panels on those are just covered with the finger safe ones because they're constantly every ride. That's pretty cool.
Punching the button.
I always take the fun out of the rides because I'm looking at the control switches.
Here's a relatively new product we'll jump into, our foot switches. We offer these in a couple different varieties.
This goes to your guitar, right?
Yeah, that's my wah-wah switch and everything for my guitar. But basically we offer these in sustained type operation. We offer, if you look online, and maybe I'll jump over here real quick.
Yeah,
and
go ahead. We have several different flavors there as well. I think we have some double foot buttons, foot switches.
Let's see. Okay, where am I going here real quick?
To the website, Tom. Now what Tom's got, let me borrow the one you've got in your hand while you're doing that. And the one that he has is actually, this is so you don't trip over to accidentally step on it, but it's like a toe safe. You've actually got to insert your toe inside, and it's got a lever that you actually is going to have to depress before you can press the button down itself. Now we can kick back over to the website, and Tom's going to show you, the lineup real quick.
Basically, sorry about that. Took me a little while to get here, but we offer them in, normally open, normally closed, or two normally open, two normally closed. There's also a dual unit.
Yep.
And basically, you'd be using these on different types of punch
we've
presses.
got some, like you've got some on the slide there. I know, for instance, when I worked in a corrugated plant, we had some paper cutters that you needed to make sure both fingers and toes and everything was out of the way. And Okay, let's go ahead and we'll move forward on to the next item is going to be our limit switches. And now we've carried these for a while too. Now we've offered some more product on the lines, but we've got the metallic and the non-metallic.
So right here I'm holding the metallic one. It's a lever arm, adjustable lever arm type, and over here is the non-metallic type we handle, and we offer these in a large variety of operators. I think there's up to
there's accessories you can buy. You can buy different heads and whatnot. And Tom, we were talking earlier. You can rotate the heads on the top, at 90-degree increments.
It might be hard to see in the video.
Yeah.
But there's 4 screws in the top, and I can actually turn this around and face it the opposite direction if need be, if the application calls for it. This one's pretty unique because we have multiple conduit holes on it to bring wire into it and take the wire back out.
Now these all come with contacts. You can buy, I believe they come with normally open contacts. You can buy them normally closed. You can buy doubles. The contacts are adjustable, because I used to get the question of, well, how far does the lever actually got to travel before the contact makes? Well, there's a set screw inside. You can adjust it up or down, so it's a little less sensitive, a little bit more sensitive. If you want different types of arms, maybe a broken arm, you can buy arms and whatnot. And Tom's going to go check that out real quick.
So I was going to say, we also, I think this one I'm going to look under limit switch.
Either limit switches or under our sensors, but they're nice gasketed on the metals, and you see the non-metallic. I mean, these are super inexpensive, but they're really rugged. We use them in a lot of applications. We use what we sell here, and if you've ever seen pictures or any of the documentation on our shipping department, all of our gear is used out there on the line. But go to the accessories and whatnot and show what we've got as far as the heads and rollers and switches, contact blocks.
Yeah, the contact blocks are kind of unique. There's different arrangements. In some applications you might want a normally open and normally closed switch, and you might want the normally open to make before the normally closed opens. And sometimes that's called slow actuation. But we also offer those types of contact blocks. In my terminology, back in my design days and everything, we'd call that make before break, and in some cases overlapping type contacts. So those are definitely available, plus different types of operators and everything for the switches.
Okay, next up is our stack lights. Now stack lights, we've carried these for a while as well, but like I said, of course we keep adding on to all of our lines. The stack lights, Cutler Hammer, once again, Cutler Hammer does a really good job. I know when I was building panels, I was using some other different product brands, manufacturers, and they were nowhere near what Cutler Hammers were. And had I known about Automation Direct, I could have got them for half of what I was paying and got a better quality product. But multiple colors, you can get them in strobe, you can get them in LED, you can get them in incandescent. The one I've got here in my hand actually has the audible alarm on top. You can get different size shaft bases here, the screw-on base. If you don't want to use the bases, you can actually just use 3/4 inch conduit. We've done that just straight out of the top of an enclosure and use 3/4 inch conduit, and it's got a nice little set screw.
Do up to six lights high.
Right.
Also on the website, if we want to jump over there real quick, the first category, these are pre-assembled. So some of the standard ones, I'll bring this up real quick, but some of the standard type configurations with 2 or 3 lights where you might have red, green, and blue, or red, amber, and green, like a traffic light. Those are available as a standard. Again, 24-volt DC or 120-volt AC, and that would cover both the incandescent type bulbs, the LEDs, plus the audible signals. I should say the audible is available, and I think it was three different
ones. And if you open up one of the audibles, you can look in the bottom. It actually has a variable pitch or variable volume control. And what's cool about these is you actually it was one of the biggest calls I got was customers were expecting them to be so hard or so complicated to wire like some of the other manufacturers were, whereas these, you basically take the base, you've got a nice terminal block on the bottom, you can wire all of your lights depending on how many you're going to have, and once you insert that back into the base, it snaps down, and you just keep snapping, and what it does is it has terminals all the way through every light. So when you get to the top, then you're done, and you can plug in 2 wires for your audible alarm, and they just go right here on the inside. It's very easy. You can't misplace, or you can't pretty easy to go there. And when you buy a base, typically you'll come with a dust cap on top. It'll come with gaskets. Actually, let me make that comment. You don't have to put these on a pole or a pipe.
You can
just
mount them direct.
Flush mount them. They come with gaskets. You can screw right straight through them. Again, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, if you go to our website, oops, I didn't want to go to pre-assembled. Hold on a minute. There's actually a wiring diagram available that you can actually check how they're wired. And if I can find, there's the strobes. There we go, bitone. So if I go to the bitone here and bring up the specifications.
Oh, you can listen to the WAV files, right?
Yeah, you can actually play the WAV file from here. Now, we don't have speakers hooked up to the computer here, but you can actually sample the WAV tone.
We used to get calls all the time of customers, well, what does this one sound like? And I felt like an idiot on the phone trying to mimic the audible alarm. So we finally got the WAV file.
Do the high-low tone.
Yes. I used to work in a plant that we had about, I don't know, 16 or 20 of these, and on, there was one on every line, and you worked 12-hour shift, and you heard these all day long, and at the end of the night, you'd wake up in the middle of the night just hearing these alarms in your ears. All right, so that was the stack lights. Let's go on. I think we're almost at the end here. I'm going to let Tom talk about the wired duct. We have covered this in the past under some of our wiring solutions, but if you wire up any panels, control panels, you definitely need wire duct.
I mean, we offer the wire duct in the basic colors of gray and white, finger type, solid type, anything from 1/2 to 3/4 inch size, like this small piece I'm holding here.
Now, what's one of the benefits from buying from us, though, Tom?
The great benefit from buying us, I mean, if you've done a lot of panel wiring, and you've had to use wire duct, of course, you try to maximize what sizes of wire duct you're using. I mean, for me, the common size was 1x3 high, and so we'd buy a bunch of that, but every once in a while I'd get in a situation where it'd be nice to run, a 2x2 in some area on the panel or something, but I didn't want to buy a whole box of it. I knew I'd never use it, so with us, you can buy one piece. It's pretty unique in the industry for us to even carry wire duct and to be able to sell it that way, but to be honest, it was a lot of requests from our customers to be able to supply wire duct that got us to the point where we actually set a place up out in the warehouse where we could actually not only store the wire duct, which is kind of awkward to store, but we also set up special arrangements so we could ship it and get it down to selling one piece and everything. So we have a wide variety. We also came out more recently with the colors. Where we came out with black and blue.
Intrinsically safe.
We would use blue.
If you want data communications or some type of communications.
And to be honest, that was kind of new to me. I was used to using the old machine gray type wire duct for years. So to come out with blue and black, that was great.
And we also offer the non-metallic rivets that you can use to attach these.
Plus the installation tools.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So we have accessories for these.
One of the accessories I'm holding in my hand here is a divider. This is pretty clever. You're setting up your wire duct, and you have a 4-inch piece of wire duct. You have different signals like low voltage and high voltage, or you're trying to separate maybe input I/O wiring from output wiring. You can stick a piece of a divider down the middle to help separate this, and this is set up so you can clip on different accessories and everything to help hold the wires in place while you're wiring and stuff.
And our last product of today is going to be our DIN rail. Now, a customer might be, what's DIN rail and why do I need it? Somebody might be, yeah, I already have DIN rail, but Tom, can you buy this in single pieces as well, or do you have to buy a whole stick or a whole
box? And a whole box is, I can't remember, we can look it up, but it's either
still dirt
10
cheap.
or 25 pieces.
But it's still dirt cheap.
You can buy one piece, which is very unique in the industry.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have 3 different sizes there, or 3 different types.
Right. Basically, the standard's 35 millimeter, and we sell that in both the 7.5 millimeter height and the 15 millimeter height. Most common is going to be the 7.5. That's going to, take on anything from terminal blocks to
I've got
our
a
switch.
Ethernet switch. I've got a PLC, and in the back of the PLC, you can barely see it there.
Yeah.
The PLC can be, panel mounted with screws or DIN rail mounted. You see how quick and easy that is. We sell tons of products that mount onto DIN rail, and it's just sort of industry standard when it
Relay
comes to stuff like that.
sockets, motor starters.
Yeah, I've got some circuit breakers there. Now some accessories. We have some 45-degree standoff plates. We love those for demo
handy.
stuff.
And we, if you looked at our Productivity 3000 webinar, we had a lot of the equipment set up on the angled standoffs.
Right. So that's pretty cool stuff.
We also sell a 15 millimeter width DIN rail that's primarily used with our mini terminal blocks,
right?
Our connectors, and actually we have a webinar coming up in January.
February.
February.
Okay,
3rd. I'm sorry. February 3rd to cover connectors.
It will be posted today.
Okay.
So sign up for it.
And also, with the I can't talk about the DIN rail without talking about we sell the end anchors. So you put a piece of DIN rail on your panel, you put all your components, snap them on there.
Right.
You don't want them sliding around or moving if possible, so we also sell the end anchors under our Dynector product line.
Okay. All right, I think that's going to round it all out. So we're going to stop real quick and see if our customers have any questions. I didn't get any. Oh, let me back up. Sorry, I bumped that. I didn't get any ahead of time that had any that pertained to any of the products that we had today, other than somebody was asking about the enclosures. Do we stock the enclosures or not?
Right.
But I think we sort of answered that. But just in case you didn't catch it, we'll go back and recap. Enclosures you can see on our website. If it has a lead time, that means that they are stocked at the manufacturer at Hubbell Wegman. But like we said, Hubbell Wegman has space in their warehouses. They have to keep so many of these enclosures there for us. There's a contract, between us and Hubbell. They can't sell them, for their customers. They can't send them out to other suppliers. They're just for us. And basically, that just keeps us from having to ship them from Hubbell Wegman to our location and then from us back out. So it saves everybody money on the shipping, and we pass that along to our customers. But that was the only question that I had prior to.
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything we haven't covered. Again, we tried to, combine different product groups into something that might have some meaning and cover it. And for sure, we're going to be covering a ton more of our products in the future.
Now, we do have a lot more of these products extension on the product lines. Keep your eyes open for, this year alone, we've thrown out so many, couple thousand part numbers this year in 2009, 2010. We're still going through all that as well. We're going to be adding more products there, so keep your eyes open. I know one of the things we forgot to mention on the Hubbell Wegman stuff.
Accessories.
Yeah, go back to that. Hubbell Wegman, the enclosures, that was one of them. Customers had asked for different stuff, but we carry, Tom's on the slide there.
It's probably hard to see on this slide, but I mean, we carry exhaust fans, cooling, the Vortex. If you're not familiar with Vortex,
basically you hook up the pneumatics and it's going to pull the hot air
out of it.
Right.
Yep. And we also sell, different components that are used for side mount of auxiliary panels, interlocks, defeaters, locks, latches, casters, about anything that's going to, go with your
What if I need an air conditioner?
I think that's coming up. I mean, we do sell, cooling fans.
Right.
We do sell
but we're actually going to start carrying air conditioners, so keep your eyes open for those, for the enclosures.
For the enclosures.
Not for my house.
Yeah. We're going to look into being able to supply air conditioning type devices that work with the enclosures.
Okay. Well, we haven't had any really other questions other than those few, so we'll go ahead and hold off. But if you have any questions for us, please go ahead and ask. We'll answer you, either as we get to the very end or even through email. And if you don't want to ask us, feel free to call our free tech support, and you can ask them.
Yeah, happy to help you.
Information resources, don't worry about jotting these down. There's quite a few of them there, and there's a reason why. Tom says, he started pulling these PDFs and some really good information, but we'll send you those links where you can just click on them and go to it and read those PDFs. But, NEMA, what is NEMA? How do I know what I need? Do I need, NEMA 4? Do I need 4X? Do I need 12? What's an IP rating? What's the difference between NEMA and IP? And also our enclosure overview, the push button switches stuff, and then of course our tech support. You can always call them and they'll answer any questions you've got. Yep. Well, I think we're at the end there, so I want to thank everybody for coming in today. Make sure you check out the Talk website and sign up for other seminars and whatnot. Like I said, Tom and I've got a list, and that's filled out until the end of first quarter of 2010.
Right.
Tom, thanks for coming in and helping me again.
Thanks for having me here, Shane. And
we always try to fit as much as we can in 40 minutes and cover as much products. If there's something you want to see more technical, join us over on the Learn side. And Tom and I is going to, we're pumping out videos, trying to get all these out, and we'll start breaking these down. We actually have some help. So first of the year, we're going to start actually breaking down some better stuff on, not better, but more technical
more
on
technical.
Maybe backing up. How do you build a control panel? How do I know how to build a control panel? Where do I start? Anyway, go to our Learn site, watch our videos, sign up for more Automation Talk shows. Sign up for one of our free catalogs. Go to AutomationDirect.com. Feel free to browse everything there. Keep us in mind for all your automation needs, and hope that you'll sign up for more talk seminars that we have. And then any questions, comments can be sent to me via email, and that's at live, L-I-V-E, at AutomationDirect.com. Until we have a chance to speak to you again, thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you.